Dear friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. This is Huck TV. Yes, Huck is in charge, and there she is. She has been rambunctious today, to say the least, but it's been a fun afternoon, and got a lot warmer weather, warmed up about 25 degrees in the last several days. She was just laying on her stomach on the snow today, loving it. So, we got some big news for you, and we're going to get into it. Yes, that right there, that poster, is our third movie, Missing 411, The UFO Connection. Got super good ratings on IMDb, and I'm very blessed that you guys liked it. First movie I ever did was because of this man right here. That's Ben. And he was making Missing 411 our first movie, my son. That was a little actor that we had playing Jared Attadero. And Ben took care of that boy and really helped him form a role that was great. Without Ben, I wouldn't be here. And he saw something in my work that nobody else did. He saw, and he had read my first couple of books, and he said, "Dad, these stories, there's got to be another way, other than just reading books." You know, he was talking about his age group, the younger people would rather watch a video than read a book. I listened to him, and he made sense. After he made the first movie, he kind of lost interest in things. I think he had such success that first time it was too easy for him. And he started to go a different direction in school, in life. And that's another day for another story. But that was 8 years ago that we did that. A long time ago. Since that time, Missing 411, The UFO Connection, it was released on a platform, 1091 Media. It released for 1 month, and then 1091 sold their entire collection to the Soup for the Soul Entertainment. Soup for the Soul was going bankrupt at that point, and they didn't tell anybody. And they took all the royalties from the 300 movie collection that people were making, and they just kept them. And so at the point where I was going to collect royalties to make up for the cost of making the UFO Connection, they never came. You make 85% of your revenue back in that first 10 months. They didn't give it to us. They took it. Soup for the Soul Entertainment took it all. But I'm not the only one they took. They took hundreds of people, just like me, for millions and millions of dollars. So that's really where everything stalled for me. And I've had a tough time rebounding. Several people said, "Dave, get back out there. We need more of your movies. You need to tell more stories." And Ben had the idea to fund the first movie through a Kickstarter. And we funded it that way. And we used a skeleton staff and really no special effects, really no colorization, really no sound balance. I mean, everything was shoestringed, but we did it. And it was good. But everything is 5 times more expensive now. So, what we're doing is we're back on Kickstarter again. We're back on Kickstarter for this, Missing 411 National Parks. I humbly ask you to go to Kickstarter and just type in Missing 411 National Parks. Our movie will come up. We have a variety of different tiers in there that you can participate in. I know a lot of people are having tough times. I truly respect that. And we made options for other people that don't have money. Meaning, you want to feel like you're part of something good. I'm going to allow that to happen. For $10, you can invest in the movie, and I'll put your name in the credits as a supporter of the movie when it comes out. I'm not asking for a lot, but you know what? There's a lot of you out there that are great people that have supported me through thick and thin. I'm grateful, truly. And then we have another level where you can get a digital download of the movie. Other levels where you can get a sweatshirt of the movie. Another level where you get a lot of things, be named as a producer, and you can come to the movie premiere, etc. There's actually an option to even, you'd be pretty wealthy to do this, but last movie we had a couple, and that is that you pay to have a speaking role in the movie. Yeah, we have those too. And it's all about funding the movie at the most basic level. The amount that we're asking for funding, $145,000, does not even begin to pay for the movie. But it starts. And last time, what happened is that we got some pretty big sponsorships. And I have no doubt that we'll do this again. We'll get some big sponsorships. If you know a company that's backpacking company, survival company, and you know them, and you can attest to what we do and how important it is, I will put their product on the air. I'll even talk about it on the air in the movie. I don't care. It's all about funding this. Now, don't send me your ideas, because it's not going to do any good if I approach somebody. It always takes somebody who knows someone. And I was very grateful that Mossy Oak Corporation took me to the SHOT Show in Las Vegas last time, right before our movie came out, or right before we started production. And I met a couple of big businesses at the SHOT Show, and they jumped in and supported us. I'll tell you, one of them was Arc'teryx, the outdoor manufacturer of clothing. Great clothing. Yeah. So, that's what's going on. Go on to Kickstarter, and I'll put that in the #1 comment of this movie, the pinned comment. You can go on there, and I actually did a video in Glacier National Park about the National Park movie and why this is the time it's going to happen. You see, the reason it is the time is in December, legislation passed that said if you have 5 or fewer people in your commercial film crew, you don't need a permit any longer to film in a national park. And you see, the Park Service repeatedly denied me access to film. There was never a good reason. Never. One time I sent it overnight to Yosemite, and I waited 6 weeks, never heard from them, called them back. Finally got somebody on the phone. They said, oh yeah, it's probably in our mail room. Then they got it and denied it the next day, with the most rude letter you've ever seen. And in the movie, I'm going to read that letter to show you the crazy people that work in administrative roles in the Park Service. Trust me, this is not all the Park Service folks. the upper echelon, some of them are crazy. And some of their law enforcement people are great people. And I've met them. And a couple of them are real loons. As an example, they will not release some missing person reports that are 50 years old and 40 years old. Why? Why not release it? What's in those documents that they don't want the public to see? One special agent called me on the phone and said, Dave, you will never see that report. I've never talked to this guy before. And he talked to me like I was a piece of garbage. Well, we'll let this play out. I know that the movie will get made with your help on that Kickstarter funding us. And I need you to take that link and put it on all your social media, and I would be eternally grateful. Thank you. And again, Missing 411 National Parks. And just as note, that logo was made by the organizer of the Bigfoot Caribbean cruise, Marty. So if you're on the cruise, you see Marty, you tell him he made a heck of a logo. Thanks, Marty. So the case today, highly unusual, folks, highly. I had several people write to me and say, Dave, would you please cover this? That's why we're covering it. The man's name, a true American patriot, gave his heart and soul for the country. His name was Clint Bonnell. 50 years old, went missing January 27th of this year, 2025. He retired in 2024 after spending 20 years in the Green Berets. That's what he worked for. Work for your freedom. And he was a spokesman for Gold Star families. You talk about upper crust person. He was originally from a place called Dripping Springs, Texas. And when he was younger, he worked for Motorola Corporation. And then 9/11 happened. And he joined the Army. And he made the Green Berets. Retired as a sergeant. That's an American right there, folks. A true American patriot. Clint Bonnell. So, right now, when this happened, he was married to a woman named Shanna Cloud, and he had one daughter. His last assignment in the Green Berets was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And he had a house on the outskirts of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Now, when he was leaving the Green Berets, he was a medic, and he wanted to continue on in the medical field. So he applied for physician's assistant school at Methodist University in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It wasn't easy to get into. I actually have a very close friend that just graduated from PA school. It was tough. The cream of the crop want to get in there. He got in. Used the VA benefits. It's exactly what they're there for. Well, the first semester he went in started in the middle of 2024. He finished at late November, early December 2024. And during that semester, when his class of 40 started, they elected him president. Clint's president of his class. So the way PA school works is that there's 40 people in a class. Everybody stays together. Everybody goes to classes together, the same class, labs, everything together. and it's pounded into your head, you take care of each other. You look out for each other. If you see somebody's having problems, step in and help. If you see somebody's getting sick, help them out. If somebody's not doing well, you help them. Because the goal is to graduate 40. I like that mentality. I wish life was like that. So Clint made it through his first semester. And then they had a majority of December 2024 off. And Clint went back to Texas to stay with his sister for several weeks during the break. Sister's name was Stephanie Firkins. She stated that Clint was stable, would never leave his daughter or his school, and that's what she said in an article. Didn't say anything about the wife, his wife. And I thought that leaving that out was odd. But then the more research I did on this story, the more strangeness things started to happen. Now, Clint's residence is down a wooded road on the outskirts of Fayetteville, not far at all from the Cape Fear River. A lot of weird things happen around the Cape Fear River. I'm just saying. Now, this is the Cape Fear River. His residence is right off Highway 87. This is all a wooded area back in here. I'll get into more of it in a second. Now follow this because this is important. In January 2025, Clint started his second semester at school, doing well, everything is good. Came back from Texas, everything seemed fine. January 27th, Clint left his home and drove to a fitness club that he went to called Fit for Life. And he spent about an hour and a half there, between 3 and 4:30. And that was at 210 Owen Drive in Fayetteville. And then at about 5 o'clock, or between 4:30 and 4:45, he drove from the gym over to Methodist University to a school, and he spent 2 hours preparing for exams that were upcoming. Everything seems normal. After that, he drove to his residence and put his key and his wallet on his counter, and the vehicle, his car, was parked in the driveway. So let me go over this with you because this is pretty important. This is his residence. Drives from the residence to his gym. Drives from the gym to his school. Drives from the school, comes back down to his house. Down here. Kind of see, on a normal day, he would, if he was going to the gym, he'd just be making this loop all day. All right? Now, his house, it's not a it's not a long road from the main roadway to his house, but it is a wooded road that he drives down for maybe, 100 yards or so till he gets to his house. So, I doubt anybody could see his house from another house. Pretty thick. So January 28th, he didn't show up for school. Now remember I told you, these 40 people in this class, this is a tight group. They're taught to look out for each other. This is a 3-year program to be a PA. School friends, called his phone, nothing. They thought, well, maybe he's sick. We tried, we'll try again tomorrow. January 29th. The school calls him again, but he had never called in sick. He had never missed anything. He's a Green Beret. You don't understand their mentality. No, they don't miss anything. You're on time. Every time. Well, the school calls. His phone, no answer. Just goes to voicemail. And the school makes a decision that they're going to send a deputy from the Cumberland County Sheriff's to do a welfare check on him. Just make sure he's okay. Good move by the school. School sends somebody out a couple times until they eventually make contact with somebody. And by the sounds of it, it sounds like they made contact with his wife. And I'll explain why this is a little ambiguous. But when the deputies make contact with the wife, somehow, the wife sends a Facebook message to his sister that he visited in Texas saying, hey, have you heard from Clint? Okay, let's hold your taters right there. A Facebook message? This is your husband. That's her brother. And nobody's seen him for 2 days, and you're sending a Facebook message? What? I don't think I've ever heard of that. For me, sometimes I go weeks without looking at Facebook. There's some urgency to this. What about a phone call? Or a text message? Just saying. Maybe I'm being overly dramatic, but I'm sorry, I thought that was very odd. The wife told the sister the Cumberland Sheriffs had been by for a welfare check, and they were sent by the school. And it sounds by the messaging that the wife wasn't at the home when the sheriffs came by, which makes it sound as though they weren't living together. And then, if the wife was living at the home and his keys and his wallet were on the counter, and he never came home overnight, but his stuff was there, I think a wife or a husband would have raised the alarm at that point. I read many articles about this. It's very ambiguous, the relationship Clint had with his wife when this happened. And I wrote this down, that Clint's sister seems to be tiptoeing around this relationship issue in all of the articles. 2 different reporters said that they contacted the wife, but she wouldn't call him back. So your husband's missing. Why aren't you calling the reporters back and trying to help them get this story out? Right? There was one Facebook post that was written that said that Clint and his wife were in the process of getting a divorce. Okay. Makes a little bit of sense. So January 29th, that same day when the sister gets called, the sister, Stephanie Firkins, files a missing persons report with the Cumberland County Sheriff. What? No, wait a minute. I'm not saying anything bad about Stephanie. She's been a good sister. Why isn't the wife filing this report? Doesn't she live in the county? Was she living with him? She's the closest relative. Rather than some sister in Texas filing a missing person report with somebody in Fayetteville, Cumberland County? I don't get it. Stephanie said that her brother was healthy, hardworking, and reliable, and he would never no-show for anything. Well, that's the way the Army and the Green Berets are, right? So, there's no mention of any searches done by the Cumberland County Sheriff. There's no mention of any canines working the area of the grounds around Clint's house. I don't get it. But now I'm going to run a couple of scenarios by you. And I'm going to speak out loud, and I may really upset somebody. Possibilities. Clint got home late at night. Well, late at night. 8, 9 o'clock maybe. He drives down that lonely, dark road to his house. Is there a possibility he interrupted a burglary at his home? He walked in, put his wallet and things down on the counter. Could have been jumped then. His car's still in the driveway. Didn't find the phone. I don't know. Clint spent December with the sister in Texas, not with his wife. Not normal. I've known a bunch of military people that later became police officers. And changing from military life and deployment, separation from family, changing to civilian life and being home daily can be quite stressful on relationships because it's such a change. Is that what happened here? I don't know. Wife never reported Clint missing. Somebody please tell me why. Wife didn't contact sister until Clint was gone on a second day, and only contacted her because the sheriff came out and did a welfare check. Does that seem odd, or is it just me? Stephanie said Stephanie, the sister, last spoke to her brother when he visited in December. So think about this. Clint appears to be not communicating with his wife or his sister, the two closest relatives in his life. That could lead to a lot of stress right there. January 30th of this year, the sheriff posts on Facebook about Clint's disappearance. If anybody knows anything, blah, blah, blah. February 7th, the sheriff makes another post on Facebook. Never any mention about his deputies canvassing the neighborhood where he lives, looking for witnesses. No mention of the forest being searched. No mention of the creeks and the river searched. I've never heard of this. What? And this is a question I would ask the sheriff. What do you know, sheriffs and deputies, that would cause a complete lack of a search effort? Complete lack of a search effort, but you feel obligated to put a post on Facebook that he's missing. I don't get it. Now, if he was suicidal, law enforcement is still obligated to look for that individual and try to save his life. So that wouldn't be a good option. If he told his wife he was leaving and to not bother him, deputies would need to have some proof that this happened, to just walk away and do nothing. Because you got to think, maybe something happened. And I need to be looking into it as an officer. And this is the part that really hit me pretty hard. Imagine spending 20 years of your life, 20 of your most healthy, best years, giving that to the military, making a low salary, just waiting for retirement and VA benefits to kick in. And then you get there to that retirement, and you now had to live with maybe half your retirement benefits, sell your home, give half your home to your wife. Was this what happened to him? I have no idea what happened. I'm thinking through all the possibilities. Except his wife showed very little interest in Clint's welfare. Now, I understand relationships have hard times. I understand that you can even get to the point where you hate each other. So this is a poster that went up about Clint and his disappearance. I'll give you a close-up look of what he looks like. So this is not his mentality to run from things. He really, really wanted to be a PA. And like his sister said, that he wouldn't walk away from school over his daughter. So what happened? I'm not sure, but it bothers me a lot. It bothers me that the Cumberland County Sheriffs are not doing squat. Bugs me a lot. Okay, so that's our case for today. Sometimes I run across something that is imperative that I tell you. This is a book written by a brilliant man, Jacques Vallée. This book, Passports in Magonia. I've read it several times. And I'm telling you, it's brilliant. Remember, one of the subcategories of missing people is berry pickers. Remember that? Page 53 in the book says the rocks were full of them. On the island of Aramor, a man named Old Patsy, whom we met in chapter 2, told Walter Wentz a true story about the fairies. 20 years ago or so, around the bed of Dermont and Grania, just above us on the hill, there were seen many fairies, crowds of them, and a single deer. They began to chase the deer and followed it right across the island. At another time, similar little people chased a horse. The rocks were full of them, and they were small fellows. The rocks were full of them. Remember, I've told you about boulder fields? And another person told Wentz, my mother used to tell about seeing the fair folk dancing in the fields near Cardigan, and other people have seen them around Cromlech, up on the hill. They appeared as little children in clothes, little soldiers' clothes, with red caps, according to some accounts. While Wentz was recording material in Ireland, he went to Ratra with Dr. Hyde, and they were told this story about a leprechaun. One day I was gathering berries along a hedge not far from here, and something made me turn over a flat stone, which I saw in the ditch where I stood. And there beneath the stone was the most beautiful little creature I'd ever seen in my life. And he in a hole as smug as could be. He wasn't much larger than a doll, and he was most perfectly formed with a little mouth and eyes. I turned the stone over again and ran as hard as I could to bring my mother. But when we got back, didn't see a thing. These stories about little people here in the States, almost every Native American tribe talks about them. Now, why am I reading you this? Supporting documentation, boulders, rocks, berries. I'm just saying, folks. I'm just saying. I'm going to keep going. Now, since we're getting to the central idea of this book, I will quote two more stories, both of them landing reports from the Richardson period in terms of number of landings reported. Autumn 1954 in UFO history, both stories come from France. And the second case is a classic one. It happened on a Sunday, September 26th in Drôme, 2:30 p.m. Mrs. LeBouf was gathering blackberries along a hedge. Yes, it is almost the exact duplication of the leprechaun story, when the dog began to bark and then started howling miserably. She looked around and saw the little animal standing on the edge of a wheat field in front of something that she thought was first a scarecrow. But going closer, she saw that the scarecrow was some kind of small diving suit made of translucent plastic material, 3 feet tall and a little taller, with a head that was also translucent. And suddenly she realized the inside of the diving suit was a thing, and behind the blurred transparent of the helmet, 2 eyes were looking at her. At least she had the impression of the eyes, but they seemed larger than human eyes, and she realized that this diving suit began to move toward her with a kind of quick waddling gait. It was a UFO-related story. Next story. These are just quick ones. I don't want you to get all mad I'm reading stories to you. But if you don't have an open mind to understand how this puzzle fits together, you shouldn't even be here. Again, I've spent several years doing research on the Cherokee Indian, which is a branch of the Iroquoian tribe. When the Cherokee migrated into the hills of Tennessee, they came upon a strange race of moon-eyed people who could not see in the daylight. The Cherokees, being unable to understand these wretches, expelled them. Barton in 1797 states these people were a strange white race, far advanced, living in houses, etc. Haywood, 26 later, states the invading Cherokee found white people near the head of the Little Tennessee with forts extending down as far as Chickamauga Creek. He gives the location of the 3 forts. Confirmation of my correspondence report is found in the excellent book Mound Builders of Ancient America, The Archaeology of a Myth, where Robert Silverberg quotes Barton's new views of the origins of the tribes and nations of America. The Cherokee tell us that when they first arrived in the country which they inhabit, they found it possessed by a certain moon-eyed people who could not see in the daytime. Silverberg adds that Barton left the clear implication that these albino people were responsible for the Tennessee mounds. Now, not only does Tennessee have those things, but they also have tons of Bigfoot sightings, as I have told you over the years. And it's just a very strange state. Great people, strange things happening in those mountains. Well, friends, thanks for being here. Please go check that Kickstarter link. Need your help. And if you know of a company, it doesn't even have to be a big company, a small company who wants to sponsor us, I'll work with anybody. Make it happen. Huck's asleep, snoring, and we will let her be. Remember, it's a kindness revolution. Costs you nothing to be kind. Paulides out.